Welcome to r/Reddit Revenge. This is a story of someone getting back at someone with revenge after being wronged. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. The first story. Hated coworker wants to make sure I wash my hands. Now everyone and their mother knows exactly when and how often I wash my hands. The second story. Thieves steal gifts intended for others, get glitter bombed, which is enough evidence to evict them. The third story. My colleague had long days and no days off because of me. Today's first story is, want to make sure my hands are washed? Setup. At my work, there's one coworker who I just absolutely despise. I won't elaborate on exactly why I hate him, but virtually everyone at my workplace who was there for the numerous incidents that led up to this point, or has heard about them from me, have unanimously agreed that my seething hatred for this person is 100% justified. Now this idiot, let's call him D because he's a Major Richard, is halfway decent at his job, and has his nose so far up one manager's rear end, the rest of the workplace is surprised D's skin isn't permanently stained. Management is also notoriously toothless when it comes to dealing with problems. I'll explain a bit later. So short of him destroying thousands of dollars in equipment, or actually injuring someone, there is no way to get him in trouble, let alone fired. The incident. So after 2 years of putting up with D's BS, I come into the office after finishing up a task and try to grab a ticket to report the task finished. D is blocking the cabinet, and when I ask for him to move, he makes a condescending comment along the lines of, "You better have washed your hands." Now the task I just did is dirty to say the least, and requires PPE like latex gloves to perform, with washing your hands right after being best practice. I do my job properly. I wash my stupid hands. His attitude and comments were completely unnecessary. As I said above, I absolutely hate this guy. I've hated him for years. I was at the point that even this simple exchange of words was enough to finally set me off. The straw that broke the camel's back, I was done with him. So instead of beating D within an inch of his life like I wanted to do for months, I did the smart thing and notified my supervisor that I was not feeling well enough to work safely, clocked out and went home to cool off before I had to deal with D and his constant BS the next day. Well, management was not happy about that, and first thing when I walked in gave me a lecture about washing my hands, and how D was right to be concerned. Then they doled out the worst punishment they can give me, the threat of a write-up. Not an actual write-up, just the threat of one. The petty. So with me fuming at both D and management for taking his side, I had two options, get fired for assault or get petty. Well, this wouldn't be on here if I went with the former, so I hatched a plan. Because there was an issue raised about whether or not I wash my hands when required. From then I will broadcast to everyone in my building that I am conforming to safety standards whenever I need to wash my hands. And when I say broadcast, I really mean it. All of us are equipped with portable radios for communication throughout the facility, and the speakers on these things are loud, as in when someone says something, everyone can hear it, even customers in the lobby. So for half a year now, at least twice a day, everyone is forced to listen to me loudly proclaiming that I'm washing my hands whenever I finish the task. Needless to say, this irked management, my coworkers, and best of all, really annoys D. My coworkers know why I'm doing this and either laugh it off or ignore my antics. D complains to management, who occasionally try to tell me to stop. But when I tell them that I'm only trying to uphold transparency and safety standards due to complaints about my work ethic and that any request to stop should be delivered in writing, they clam up real quick. If they put the request to cease in writing or write me up for my behavior, management makes this official. Corporate has a real hard-on for safety, and having management explain why they want a worker with an impeccable safety record to stop being so safe would not look good for them. The only way to prevent me from calling out about washing is to have someone else do the task instead of me. The problem is it's a dirty job, and I'm the only one in the whole building who volunteers to do it. So now I can be annoying and petty at work. No one can or will stop me, and everyone knows that D is to blame for kickstarting this petty show. I literally just laughed out loud. So funny. I don't know you, but I'm so proud because that's the effort I go to if I get annoyed like you do. 6 months is a long time to sustain that revenge, haha. Very impressive. I hope you keep it up for a year. Keep it up, buddy. This guy is definitely going to freak out, haha. I hope you catch D coming out of the bathroom one day without washing his hands, haha, and make him do it. He got caught. Also, you could periodically add all the details of how and why you washed your hands. Something like it's 9:02 in the morning. I just washed my hands 2 times because I had an unplanned bathroom break. Ugh, I wouldn't go in there. You can continue your revenge if you insist that D witness every time you wash your hands. Just to be sure, I'm sure it would annoy him a lot. The second story is, steal my stuff, Get glittered. I lived in an apartment building. As a member of the local free gifting community, we put gifts out on a regular basis for people to pick up. We had a massive front porch to the building that had plenty of space to put an entire living room set by the front corner and still move furniture in or out comfortably. Nothing resembles a tight squeeze. We made appointments with people to pick up their gifts, usually within an hour of us setting them out, so there was no issue with trash sitting out. The property manager lived in the building and assured us there were zero issues with the gifts sitting on the porch for pickup. The gifts were almost always labeled or in paper bags with a name on them, to differentiate from the free piles that people would put out with free signs. At some point I started getting complaints that gifts were not there to pick up when I had set them out. I made sure to tighten appointment pickup times, clearly label who gifts were for, and hide things in clearly labeled bags, but they kept going missing. We had had some issues with porch pirates stealing gifts from others, so I didn't consider right away that it was someone in our building, until I noticed a pattern of what time gifts were being stolen, often within minutes of being set out, if they went out at 5 p.m. The rest of the gifts in the area were being stolen in the evening. I got very upset when a gift for a newborn was stolen at lunchtime, when I thought it would be safe to leave out for an hour, and decided to do something about it. I posted in the group, in case it was a member, they'd get a warning to stop, that I needed glitter to stop the porch pirates and was gifted some in bright indigo. I wrote a note that said stop stealing gifts for other people and put it in a paper bag. I folded the bag down double, with the edge sticking out for easy pulling open, and stapled one end. Then I used a straw to funnel glitter into the fold, so it would fly out everywhere when opened, and stapled the other end. Labeled the bag with a highly distinctive name, and set it on the porch at 4:45 p.m., with instructions to my partner that if it was still there at 10 p.m. when he got home to bring it inside. Then just waited. I don't know what I expected, maybe some screams or something. Anyway, 5 days later I finally broke down and asked the property manager if anything strange had happened recently. She said as a matter of fact someone had called to hire the carpet cleaner for an off-schedule cleaning because they spilled blue glitter in their carpet. As they'd caused the damage and used the machine and labor, they'd already paid the carpet cleaning fee. I gave her details that I had put a gift out full of glitter, but it disappeared immediately, before my intended recipient, my partner, could get it. Because the glitter had been a consequence of them stealing from their neighbors, and there's no way to get all the glitter out of carpet, they were charged for the damages of a full carpet replacement when they left. And best yet, because theft is a violation of community agreements, their lease was terminated, so they were forced to move with 20 days' notice. All the thefts in the area stopped. We're still not sure if it was someone in the group that saw gifts and wanted them, or if they were just driving around picking up random things off of people's porches. It's great that you got justice, and found the thief after all. Now your gifts won't go missing, I hope. I love seeing someone really dealt with, rather than seeing something so good ruined and undone for everyone. Thieves will shine like stars now. Good luck explaining why you still have glitter in your hair, even if you think you've washed it all off. You'll have to shave to make sure you clean it all out. My wife used to do the same thing when we were dating. I'd come over almost every weekend and she'd pack a lunch for me. After the first 2 times my lunch went missing, we spent the day decorating lunch bags out of brown paper. When that didn't work, she took a scrap of underwear, filled it with annoying heart-shaped sequins, and loosely tied it together. When I went to lunch that day, there was glitter everywhere. It was tracked all over the building, so I couldn't tell who did it, but that was the last time anyone ruined my lunch. The last story is, I just want you to be here. I've worked in live theater for my entire professional career. For the most part, I've specialized in video, which is a pretty niche thing. Not a lot of people that are drawn to live theatrical performance are at all interested in video. I was working at a large regional theater company as a video engineer. Said company got lucky enough to be the place where a show destined for Broadway would originate. This show has received a decent amount of fame, not like Hamilton, but you'd probably have heard the name if I said it here. The show had a lot of video, like a lot. Specifically, it had around 30 flat-screen TVs that were part of the set. They'd fly up and down, move across the stage, and display all sorts of content. We brought in a Broadway designer and his team of assistants to produce all the content. I worked most closely with the video engineer attached to the project, an NYC-based guy. We'll call him Chad. It was a big show for my team. The scope was completely out of our usual wheelhouse, but we had a lot of talent on our side. All of us put in some insane hours. Me and one other person had a couple of more than 100-hour weeks during the build and load-in. I, in particular, didn't get a day off for around a month. I think 29 days. It was a big show and we were all exhausted. Once we were in technical rehearsals, the large part of my job was over. Most of the time, I was expected to be on site in case anything went wrong. In general, I'm totally fine with this. It's part of the job. We got to a Wednesday night, right at the end of that 29-day period. I realized I literally didn't have a clean pair of underwear to wear the next day. I talked to my boss at the theater company local, and his boss also local, and they gave me the okay to go home to do my laundry. I'd be back the next day at 8 a.m. I went to let Chad know what the plan was. I explained that I needed to do laundry, and that I hadn't had a day off in a month. He sighed, exhibiting extreme annoyance and disappointment, and said, "I just want you to want to be here." Well, F you too, Chad. Seriously. He knew how hard I had been working. He knew how much I had been there. He knew there wasn't anything for me to do that evening. He knew that if there was a technical problem, he was more qualified than I to address it. He knew all those things and didn't care. That was the moment any ambition I had to work on Broadway died. I had to put my heart and soul into that show, and had a relationship fall apart as a result. And he wanted me to want to be there? Side note, theater people can be really toxic about this kind of thing. If you aren't there every waking hour, people will turn their noses up at you. It's the one thing I hate about theater, that there's this cultish sense of a required level of devotion. That if someone treats it as a job and not a calling, they don't deserve to be there, which is BS on many levels. That said, if anyone is in the condition I was in, the hours and the lack of days off, usually they'll be escorted out of the building by their coworkers and have their keys taken away until they get some rest. Theater people can be cultish, but they do care about one another. Chad's actions were on a whole different level. There was no immediate reprisal. We got through the technical rehearsals, and the show opened. Then it closed, and moved on to NYC for an off-Broadway run, before it got to Broadway and received much critical acclaim. The revenge story comes with the move to off-Broadway. See, I was the person responsible for boxing up all those TVs to send to New York. This particular model of TV has a big rocker switch on the back, a master power switch. Knowing Chad, I knew that wouldn't be something that he'd check, so I went ahead and flipped them all off, packed up the TVs, and sent them on their way. A friend of mine worked on the production in New York. Apparently, Chad got his crew to hang all the TVs and fly them up into position without checking anything. Apparently, Chad had then spent a couple days trying to turn them on, with remotes, with network control, even getting on an electric lift and hitting the power button, separate from the rocker. Nothing worked. Huh. Apparently, when he found out the problem, he was rather frustrated. Apparently, he had been putting in some long days and hadn't had a day off in a while, and I also think he got reprimanded for it. Well, Chad, I just want you to want to be there. How insulting of him to question your motives when you've clearly made an effort, and when equality is such a deeply rooted issue in the field. Not only does it sound patronizing, but it shows a profound lack of humanity. I would have thought someone so experienced would know how to show a little sympathy during the work week. I hope you've had better project mates and work environments since then. Subscribe, hit the like button, and have a nice day.